702. World of Work.
So, on our World of Work feature this morning, we are discussing the fear of falling behind. Like, why do we often struggle to switch off? Why do we struggle to switch off when we are on holiday, when we are on break? As the year, comes down, it's winding down. There are many South Africans who are looking forward to the promise of a well-earned break, right? And you want a break where you can switch off. You want a break where you can slow down and step away from the pressures of work. And yet, despite our best intentions, a surprising number of people still keep their laptops close by. Can you believe that? And their work chats are open. So you're still participating in that work WhatsApp group, even when you are supposed to be enjoying your December holiday. What is the reason for that for you? Is it because you work in an environment where you can't be caught not knowing? Because the reason isn't simply habit or poor boundaries. It's a deeper fear, probably, of falling behind. And in an era where technology keeps us constantly reachable, the pressure to remain visible and available and in the loop doesn't just disappear when we go on leave, right? Instead, it follows us into our festive plans, and that leaves many professionals physically on holiday, but mentally you are still at work. So do you think you have the fear of falling behind? Do you think you've got the fear of just being scared of perhaps getting to a point where there are certain things you're not going to know about? I mean, I know with the kind of industry we're in, you do want to keep your pulse on the news. You don't want to be completely off the loop. You don't know what the president of the US, Donald Trump, is going to announce next on Truth Social or on Twitter. So you still want to sort of be aware of developments like that. And I think that's important. But at the same time, you don't want to wallow yourself or be consumed by work and all of this news and information, even when you are supposed to be enjoying your holiday. So there's a level of balance that is needed there. How do you balance? Give us a call on 011-883-0702. You can send us your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. So we are going to be joined in a moment by an HR expert and executive coach who's going to join us in a moment. But that's coming up after this.
702. World of Work.
So on our World of Work feature, we've got Anja van Beek, who's an HR expert and executive coach, to talk to us about this fear of falling behind, because that is what's leading to us struggling to switch off even when we're supposed to be taking a break. How do you balance still trying to keep in touch with your operations at work, and maybe as a business person, as someone who perhaps owns a business, or you're an executive manager, maybe you do feel like you want to keep tabs on the business because you don't want, things to go down in flames. But how do you balance, one, trying to keep tabs on the operations of the business, but also with relaxing and ensuring that you enjoy your break? Anja, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for making time. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. So lovely to be back.
So lovely to have you back. Why do so many professionals struggle to switch off even during the holiday season, even when they are physically away from work, myself included?
Yeah, that's a good question to start, and there can be many possible reasons. And I think the one reason might be that all of us want to manage our reputation and the legacy that we build at the business, and we definitely don't want to be perceived as disengaged or not interested. So that's one possibility. What I've also seen is, and I think you can perhaps agree with that in South Africa, and clients that I've worked with during the year, they are running leaner teams, and there's a lot more expectation on a fewer people. So I think for them to ensure quality work, a lot of people need to continue with certain activities even while they're on leave. I've even heard some of my clients saying that they can't really take sufficient time off simply because of the excessive workload, and they can only take time, for example, not over month end. So it's definitely looking at leaner teams and the workload that you have. But then for others, it might be that there's lots of unfinished tasks. And when we have a look at neuroscience, all of those incompletions creates a situation where our brains keep on looping back to those unfinished tasks. And that might be another reason why people find it difficult to switch off. And then another possibility might even be people that so focus on their work and there's such a lot of pride in what they do that their professional identity becomes so closely tied to their own self-worth. And that might be a reason why switching off is difficult for them. But there can be so many other possibilities. That's just a few that came to mind for me.
Okay. How has technology contributed to that blurring of the boundaries between work and rest?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important points to focus on, because as you said, technology is blurring those lines. Because we have our phones close by, perhaps connecting with loved ones that's not close to you. But then it's also hearing those messages coming in either from the WhatsApp groups or perhaps emails coming in. And I think that's why it's so difficult for people to say, yes, let me switch off and just focus on rest and recovery during the holiday period.
Yeah. So there are studies that have been done that highlight long hours and high workloads. And I wonder how these global insights reflect the experiences of South African professionals. I was looking at that IMD and the Sky Nova studies that are highlighting these long hours and high workloads.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I haven't recently seen similar studies in South Africa, but I can speak from experience with my clients. And the study, as you mentioned, said that 94% of professionals work more than 50 hours a week. But half of us works more than 65 hours a week. Now, if you have taken into account that the normal work week is 45 hours, so that's a lot of overtime. But I think the scary statistic is the one where they say that after hours, we spend 20 to 25 hours monitoring our phones, looking at emails, and that's all outside of office hours. And I think the reason why this is a scary statistic is that when you think of the neuroscience, we either have that task positive network that's activated when you focus on task, and the default mode network that's focused on the reflection, the little bit of time off, and when the one is activated, the other one is not activated. So I was really impressed when you shared about the reflection that you guys are having tomorrow, because that's part of switching off. Activating that default mode network, start to reflect on the year, what was good, what was not so good. But back to your question, I mean, if you think of basic conditions of Employment Act says that the minimum leave is 15 days a year. And then over December holidays, many people has taken a few days leave, and then they sit with a little bit of days, and that's the time where they can rest and recover. And now you can imagine if they now, even if it's a small, just checking in, looking at those emails, it reactivates that part of the brain, that focus, and not necessarily wanting to relax. So people need to be very intentional. And I almost want to use the words, give themselves permission to switch off. Because if you don't do that, you will see that 26 is starting, and it's almost as if we get fatigued a lot faster. Our creative thinking is impacted. And even if you think of handling emotional loaded scenarios, we're not as good when we need to focus on being resilient and being emotionally mature.
Could part of the problem also be that we've got these professional identities that then become entangled with self-worth, and then that then has an impact on our ability to switch off. But I'm also wondering, from your experience with your clients, are South Africans more prone to staying connected to work during leave because perhaps of economic uncertainty as well? Because, you know that there are leaner teams these days. It's very difficult to really find a job in some sectors. So some people just feel the anxiety and the uncertainty of, if the proverbial ish hits the fan, I'm going to be affected and I may lose my job. Therefore, I need to constantly be in the loop.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why that I don't want to fall behind is definitely so front of mind. And as you said, for some of us, that personal or professional identity is part of who you see, who you are. It might perhaps be people that does not necessarily have many out of the office interest or hobbies or networking environments, and for them their work is everything. But I think unfortunately, as you said, that the economical situation in South Africa is definitely impacting that, because we're aware of the unemployment rate. People really want to make sure that they can financially support their families or the loved ones, and that's always impacting. And as you know, South Africans are known for their loyalty, for their hard work and their dedication. I often speak to people internationally, and we have such a good track record. People love to appoint South Africans based on their loyalty and dedication. So it's almost as if I would agree with you to say that South Africans are more prone not to really switching off during the holiday season.
All right, let's listen to some WhatsApp voice notes coming on 072-702-1702.
Morning, 702. This is Kamo here from Johannesburg. Interesting topic. People who don't switch off when they are on leave or away from work. I can tell you right now, Clemmy, that one of the challenges in corporate spaces is that you can't trust anybody. You can't trust anybody. And whether you're on leave and you've handed over to somebody to assist you, Clement, if anything goes to the dogs, you will be held accountable. So it's better to just answer that call and to assist when you are being assisted. It's better to have your work laptop with you so that if they need a certain information, you can just forward it. Because the corporate space is full of backstabbers. It's an untrustworthy space, and people will throw you under the bus. So for your own peace of sake, just be available, but obviously not in excess. Make it very clear, only for emergencies and nothing else.
Okay, only for emergencies. All right. So Anya, I suppose here's another reason. Some people just don't trust people in corporate.
Yeah, and that's such a sad reality. I mean, if you look at a trusting relationship, that's really the foundation for having high-performing teams. And I think at some or other point, we need to focus on holding one another accountable, because, trust in itself is a topic on its own. But I think when you prepare for handovers, I think the role of the leader is so important to make sure that these responsibilities are handed over. And as the listener said, that that he doesn't need to feel that he will be the one being thrown under the bus. Because if we had an official handover, if we keep or hold one another accountable, then we know that for these number of days or weeks or whatever, person X is accountable and they will take ownership. I always recommend that if you have handed over something, ask that person to send you a message or just to check in and say the meeting went well, that part of the project is done. But it's such a fine balance, because one of the tips that I gave was to avoid those micro check traps, because even that quick glance at the email limits your recovery. But I mean, it's I think for each and every one to decide what works for them. But they need to be very mindful that they have 10 days, perhaps 15 days if they're lucky, and that's their time to get them back into what I call a high performance brain state and restore their energy, because we all know that the world of work is just going faster and more complex, and you owe that to yourself to really rest and recover. Otherwise, you're starting 2026 on the back foot again.
Here's another WhatsApp voice note.
Hi, Clement. Great show as always. So for me, I think it depends on the nature of the job. I mean, for instance, I work with doctors. Every discipline whether it's a physician, a surgeon. So at any moment, if they phone me and they need something that is between life or death for the patient, I always have to answer, or else I'll still be held accountable, because my job is to maintain the client relations. So they only have my number to contact. I'm the middleman between them and either a pathologist or whatever they need at that time. So whether it's a WhatsApp, it's a SMS, it's a phone. I have 2 phones. I say it's a business phone. It's never on silent. I must always answer my phone.
Yeah, quite hectic.
And and I'm taking my hat off for that individual, because as you say, with life and death scenarios, we would love or we appreciate them answering those phones.
Absolutely.
But I think for the majority of us, it's not necessarily life and death. Scenarios.
It's not. Yeah, Anja van Beek, thank you so much. Thank you for your tips. Also for people who are going to be taking some break in this holiday season on what they can do to still try get some rest, because some of us want to rest, but you're still picking that laptop with you as you go on holiday. Anja van Beek is an HR expert and executive coach. That takes us to 11:31.